I was going to ask David Icke some questions on camera and get him to respond to them. And lo and behold, when we got to the end of the show, after we had talked to that lady, all of a sudden there's no meet and greet when he'd had one at every other event. And I kind of felt like it was because he knew that I was there, especially after that woman had asked my name, and it was kind of a weird thing that transcribed there. Like I said, my thing after paying, I think it was like $75 or something, after going to that event and listening to all his information for 10 hours, he did the same thing that everybody else does. He reinforced multiple times that the Rothschilds were the tip top of the pyramid, the tip top of the power structure. There was nothing higher or more powerful than the Rothschilds. He reemphasized that 3 or 4 times during the presentation. And, I felt like that if I had been at the stage of research I was 3 or 4 years before that, I may have very well just taken what he'd said at face value and believed that. But because at that time I had come so far and seen so much as far as the Council for National Policy and the Jesuit order and the whole other end of the spectrum, I just felt like if that was what he really believed, and he emphasized it at least 10 or 15 or 20 times during that conference, especially towards the end, that he believed that the Rothschilds were the tip top of all of this, and there was nothing higher than them. At that point, I just had to make the judgment that, in my opinion, he is not a trustworthy researcher. Not that he doesn't put out good information, just like Alex Jones does put out some good information, and just like, coincidentally enough, Charlotte Iserby was making that same reference in that clip. She was referencing the Heritage Foundation, saying, well, they put out 90% good info. It's the 10% you got to look at. Well, that's exactly what Jones and the Patriot Movement does, and exactly what David Icke does. So I judge people on, the research versus what you found to be absolute fact, and I just couldn't put away the fact that here was David Icke telling me that the Rothschilds are the tip top of the pyramid, and the information that I know to be true coincides with that. So I just choose not to view David Icke as a trustworthy source of information, because it goes much higher than the Rothschilds, and anybody who's done one lick of research would be able to tell you that.
Yeah, well, David Icke is certainly an interesting character, and I tell you what, Josh, there's a reason why I don't have a whole lot of guests on my show, is because there's practically nobody out there that I think is 100% fully trustworthy. There's barely anybody. All these big names, I firmly believe that they're big names for a reason. I mean, David Icke is all over British TV. In fact, he was a sports broadcaster before he got into all of this.
Yeah, BBC.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. I mean, there should be questions raised about a lot of these people that are considered to be these prominent figures within the so-called
he was also the head of the Green Party in England.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think that can be overlooked. That's pretty huge.
Yeah, well, that certainly is something to consider. Because, just like the political parties we have over here, we know that the Libertarian Party, the Constitution Party, they're all controlled. The Constitution Party was set up by Howard Phillips, an RCMP member, and the Libertarian Party, that was taken over by Bob Barr, a former CIA asset. And of course, Bob Barr, he's an our Council for National Policy guy, and he was on the Jones Show just a short period of time ago. So, even these third parties, they're just as controlled as the major 2 parties or major 3 parties that you see in these countries. And I don't think the Green Party is any exception to that.
I'd like to make one more statement on that question there about David Icke, and this pertains to all researchers, not just David Icke. I think that again, just judge it from your own experience. It's one of those things where, like I said, he never identified anybody in terms of the Jesuit order or Zionism or anything else. It was always just Rothschild this, Rothschild that. And, just you have to make your own judgment. Take bits and pieces from everybody that's out there in the research community. Find what's true. But the problem is that people are falling back into these paradigms of following the leader and following a father figure, an animus figure, a head honcho. This is a very mammalian thing. This is ingrained into our DNA. It's a characteristic that you have to consciously overcome, because if you're just allowing your subconscious mind to rule everything in your conscious waking state in your life, then sometimes you're going to inadvertently be a slave to what is ingrained into your mentality. And that's what we do. We mimic the elders, the tribal leaders, and we look to these people as being people that we follow. instead of being people that set an example for our knowledge. And that's what all researchers should be. We're not people to be followed. We are people to hopefully add to the plethora of information out there that you have to choose from that will then make up your own belief system that you have come to believe for yourself, not one that somebody has put in there for you. And that's why I can't listen to the Alex Jones show, because all I hear is someone trying to give me an ideology that is not mine. And that is the same thing that I hear from almost, as you mentioned, Lee, almost all the researchers out there now. I hear the same thing. I hear people trying to convince people of an ideology instead of just laying out stuff and saying, this is how I see it. And that's the way I approach everything I do now. I just tell people, this is how I see it. Doesn't mean you have to see it like this, but don't you at least think it's important to consider another way of looking at something? Because if you don't consider another way of looking or thinking at something, then you're very much likely to be less right on about what you're saying. So I think that it's not really about David Icke or him as a person or Alex Jones as a person or anybody else. All of this stuff boils down to the information in the end. And that's the same problem that I have with Alex Jones I would have with David Icke or pretty much any other researcher. It's not the stuff they do or them as a person or anything else. It's just strictly the fact that they are denying people from knowing information that is just as important as the things that they're trying to shove down people's throats.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And again, that's why you have to do your own research and looking at things for yourself. That's why that's the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, when you get involved with this type of stuff, is to do your own research and not pay attention to all the shenanigans that go on. I mean, because if you do your own research, nobody is going to be leading you down these rabbit trails that go nowhere. If you're doing your own research, then you control your own destiny in terms of the type of information that you come across and how you perceive reality. And that's really what individual freedom is all about. Because how can you be individually free if somebody's telling you how to think? It just doesn't work that way. But Josh, we've got a few more questions here. I guess we got one that had some questions about our analysis of the Iserby clip, but I'll get to that after this next question. This next question involves HIV, AIDS, some of the work that Stan Monteith and our buddy Dr. Len Horowitz have done on HIV/AIDS. What's your take on their whole deal with their HIV/AIDS research and Stan Monteith and Dr. Len Horowitz in general?
Well, it's all horse crap, for lack of a better term. It's just pure horse crap, plain and simple. And I'm here to tell you why. I have a friend who used to work at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and she's going to school right now to get to more and more degrees to do biomechanical engineering. And there's a doctor out in Berkeley who's a close colleague of my friend's old calculus teacher, and he's done all sorts of experiments and experimental dosing, and they've worked. He's figured out that the polio vaccine actually cures HIV. And the United States government and the Department of Homeland Security have refused to give this doctor any more polio vaccinations because they figured out that he is injecting people with this and it's absolutely curing them of HIV. I've done some research into that, looked into this stuff. It was a man-made engineered virus. They had the cure. And this whole stuff with the polio vaccination, I don't hear Len Horowitz or Monteith talking about that when it's an absolute fact. So again, they're gatekeepers, and they assign gatekeepers to almost every topic you can imagine. This is one of the key things to understand about the Council for National Policy, is that it seems that they assign one of their minions to each and every issue there is, so that they have a gatekeeper to control the perimeters of that specific topic, no matter what the topic may be.
All right. Well, and of course we know Dr. Len Horowitz. We know about all of his shenanigans. You look on his webpage, he's got a photo of him posing with members of the Knights of Malta, or at least one member of the Knight of Malta.
Yeah. We're giving him an award, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he was given that's right. He was being given an award by the Knights of Malta. Yes, exactly. And then there's just so much stuff with Dr. Len Horowitz we get into. It would take a whole show. I mean, the guy is he's an absolute clown. And that's all there is to it. Let me get to our email. I'm going to read this one because it is fairly lengthy. It gets into our analysis surrounding the Charlotte Iserby Jones clip. And let me just read this. It says here, Tuesday night's broadcast is great as usual, but you two blew it on a few points regarding Jones. Not that I think he's 100% legit, but in your apparent eagerness to slag him, you misquoted him a few times. For instance, while you're right about him once being a member of you-know-what, he was only in it briefly and even asked, Iserby, were they always evil? Or then he ends the paragraph. Now, Josh, I don't think we accuse Jones of being a member of anything.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't recall us doing that. So
I've never once stated that Alex Jones, in either review, that Alex Jones is a member of the Council for National Policy. Simply that he has a lot of connections to the group that he doesn't want to seem to address, or as you mentioned earlier, ask these people when they come on his show. So there's just too many connections with this guy, not only to the CMP but to the Jesuit Order and to all these people that all are in the big blanket of the NWO. So that's more of what we've addressed, not anything about the guy being a member. I don't think he's a member, but I certainly think he has connections to the group.
Yeah, he's obviously got connections because he brings on people who have links to the group or have been members of the group on his show, and he doesn't ask them questions about it. So that right there is what we're referring to, not that he's a member of the Council for National Policy, because there's no proof of that. We have not covered or uncovered anything that would suggest that to be the case. The next paragraph. But where you really blew it was in jumping all over him for not coming back after the break with Iserby. He said no such thing. What he said was that he wanted to have her back soon so that he could delve into the subject deeper. Anyone who has heard the Jones show...
We weren't saying that he was going to come back with her. What he said was, we'll be right back. As if the show's going to continue, but Iserby was leaving and his show was going to continue when it didn't. That's what we said.
Yeah, exactly. He, from what I could ascertain from the clip, it sounded like they're going to return. Because when you're ending a show, it's pretty apparent, okay, folks, that's it for the show. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, he said, we'll be right back. I heard it twice. You played it twice tonight. I heard twice at the very end, he said, we'll be right back, which implies that he would be back, but Iserby wouldn't be back as the guest.
Right, exactly. And you know what, actually, Josh, just to clear up anything, let's just play the last part of the clip and let's be 100% sure, because I think that's exactly what he was alluding to, that they were going to come back. So let's play the last few seconds of this clip. All right, here we go. Here's the last few seconds of the clip.
Are more dangerous than the left, because the left tells the truth, as bad as it is. They don't lie all the time to us. We know what they're doing, but the right wing is lying.
Incredible. I'm going to have you back on then soon on the CMP. Stay with us, folks. This is important. We'll be right back.
Yeah, he said, stay with us. We're going to be right back. So
he said two. Yeah, that was two. He said, stay with us. We'll be right back. And then it ends. So.
Okay. So I don't know what this guy's talking about.
I mean, we just both thought it was odd that he said, stay with us. And then he said, we'll be right back, implying that, the show was going to continue, but Iserby would probably not be on there, but because he said, we'll have to have you back. So that it kind of sounded like he was ending that segment, but yeah, it does make you wonder, what was going on if they indeed didn't come back from the break without Iserby. It sounded like they were coming back. He said they were coming back. So,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange. Okay, I got another question here. I'm not exactly sure. Let me see here. Let me see if I can bring this up.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. I've never heard of this before. Maybe you have some knowledge about this.
Okay.
But I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, I guess we did an open request for questions, so sometimes we get these questions that
I like it. I like it though.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun than phone calls. So let's do it.
It's interesting. I mean, this is an interesting question. I've never heard of this group. Okay, ask Josh what his opinion is of the American Third Position Party and of their members like James Edwards, Kevin McDonald, Tom Sunick, Jamie Kelso, etc. I mean, they asked me to comment too. I have not heard of this group. James Edwards, he sounds like I'm not sure if this is the same guy, but I think he's the host of the Political Cesspool, which is a show on RBN. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to have to look into this some more. I just have not heard of this group. Have you heard of this group, Josh?
They're called the American Third Position Party, or is that what you're saying? American Third Position Party?
Yeah, the American Third Position Party.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of this group, and you've got you've got the James Edwards, the Political Cesspool guy. Yeah, that is indeed the Political Cesspool guy. You've got several other people. I don't really know anything about the group other than it just seems to be another one of these third parties that's popping up, a political party. I mean,
sounds like a white nationalist front.
Yeah, it is. Their logo, I know, says a political party for white Americans.
So it's white now.